the 1437A motions. Let's start with Mr. Kent Leung. Do you want to claim division? Okay, please. I will not read it, the motion. Well, over the past year, I received countless complaints with the accountants being unfairly dismissed or take a pay cut, or were not able to pay their ICPA membership while on CSSA, and while the ICPA financially incapable of cut their membership fees. So I urged members to accept the 37A because I want for each accountant to be given $2,500 in allowance so that they can pay their membership dues of the HKIPCA, which costs $115 million. I hope that you can just spare it.
Let
Mr. Leung have the mic, please. Okay, let me just read out the motion. I move that in view of the lack of effective and targeted assistance to help in the accounting profession in the past 3 rounds of the AEF, and plenty of accountants have their livelihood affected by the pandemic. In reference of the second round of the AEF, which distribute $2,000 to each SFC license holder, 2,000 Hong Kong dollars. This committee requests the SL government that to distribute $2,500 in cash to the accountant and registered accountant under the Professional Accountant Ordinance, which is equivalent to the annual membership due of the HKIPCA, with estimate amount of $115 million. Dear members, we're now voting on whether we'll deal with Mr. Kenneth Leung's 37A motion.
咁而家我哋總有14個37A 嘅嚇。
We have 14 37A motions altogether. God.
Hãy submit 好啦，現在開始。
Voting begins. Voting has stopped to show the results. 24 for, 35 against, no abstentions. The committee have vetoed dealing with this motion. Sterily, I move that for the later votes, the bell be rung from 1 minute instead of 5 minutes. In according to FCR 47, that to move that for voting on division on similar motions, the committee shall put a vote after the bell rung for 1 minute. Bell, please.
提一提大家，
May I remind members, we're now voting that whether will shorten the division bell from 5 minutes to 1 minute.
現在開始表，
Voting begins.
現在停止表決，顯示點嘅結果。
Voting is closed. The results displayed: 34 for, 24 against, 0 abstentions. So the motion is carried. Next, 37-4A motion moved by Mr. Wei. Can we show it on the screen, please? Do we need a television? Okay, we'll ring the bell for 1 minute. Mr. Wei. In accordance with Rule 37A of the Finance Committee Procedures, I move that because the AEF 3.0 could not really benefit the majority of the public, the committee asked the SL government to give $10,000 of cash to every permanent resident in Hong Kong to help them ride out the storm, the difficult times. Thank you.
睇一提大家，我哋係咪處理？
I would like to remind members the motion is on whether we will handle the motion or deal with the motion. The voting begins, please. Voting is closed. The results are displayed: 23 for, 35 against, 0 abstention. The committee has decided not to deal with the motion. Next one is moved by Mr. Roy Kong. 1 minute ring. Can we ring the bell for 1 minute, please? In accordance with Rule 37A of the Finance Committee Procedures, I move the motion as stated. Yes, my motion is that under the epidemic, there is an increasing number of the jobless. The government's scheme is not able to help the jobless in a targeted manner, so this committee asked the government to set up an unemployment relief scheme so that there will be a disbursement of $9,000 for 6 months to each unemployed person. Thank you.
現在停止表決，顯
Voting is closed. It begins. Voting is closed. 23 for, 33 against, 1 abstention. I declare that the motion has been negatived, so we won't deal with the motion. The fourth motion is moved by Dr. Helena Wong. The division bell will be rung for 1 minute. Dr. Wong, please. In accordance with Rule 37A of the Finance Committee Procedures, I move that as the government has set aside a large sum of money for procurement of COVID-19 vaccine, yet many people in Hong Kong have no confidence in mainland produced vaccine. So the committee asked the government to enhance the transparency of the procurement of the vaccine, and also they must ensure that the vaccine is safe and effective, and there should be free vaccination for the community.
現在開，
Voting begins.
現在停止表決，
Voting is closed. The results are displayed: 24, 35 against, 4 abstention. So the committee would not deal with the motion. The fifth motion is moved by Mr. Ted Hui. The division bell will be rung for 1 minute. I move that there are special schools with boarding service, and this service is still in operation during the class suspension period. So the committee asks the government to consider the subsidy given in March as a reference and give them a one-off ex gratia allowance. Voting begins. Voting is closed. The results are displayed. 23 for, 36 against, 0 abstention. So the committee has decided not to deal with the motion. Next motion is moved by Mr. James Toh. Please ring the bell for 1 minute. With the new round of the APEF, there is no assistance offered to licensed hawkers. For cooked food stores, tenants in public housing estates are the only exception. But then hawkers play an important role in our economy, and they also support the livelihood of those in the grassroots sector. And also there is a conservation value for such industry. So the government should refer to the March subsidy amount and give them a one-off ex gratia allowance. Voting begins. Voting is closed. The results are displayed. Ms. Tanya Chen. Okay, 22 for, 36 against, 0 abstention. So the committee has decided against dealing with the motion. Next motion is moved by Mr. Andrew Wen. Please ring the bell for 1 minute. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In accordance with Rule 37A of the Finance Committee's procedure, I move that as the epidemic remains in a state of flux, small and micro businesses having problems paying their rent, the committee asks the government to take the lead to cut rent for units under its management, and also there should be tax concession to encourage private landlords, developers, and the link to offer rent concession to their tenants. Voting begins. Voting is closed. The results are displayed. 24 for, 34 against, 0 abstention. The committee has decided against dealing with the motion. Next motion is moved by Mr. Lam Cheuk Ting. Please ring the bell for 1 minute. Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if this will be the last motion I move in this council. Now, the epidemic has dealt a severe blow to sports coaches, and there are many different types of sports activities operating in different ways. This committee asked the government to offer a one-off assistance to all sport coaches by relaxing the criteria, so that for all those who could prove they've been sport coaches before the epidemic will receive the assistance.
現在開始，
Voting begins.
現在停止表決顯示點名。
Voting is closed. The results are displayed 23 for, 34 against, 0 abstention. I declare the committee decided against the motion. Next motion is moved by Mr. Alvin Young. Please ring the bell for 1 minute. In the last round of the employment support scheme, the self-employed are allowed to apply for $7,500 of assistance based on their self-employed person's MPF account. But then government information shows that many have actually not created MPF accounts, so they are not able to benefit. And then these industries cover those in the performing arts sector or driving instructors and so on. So the civic parties suggest that the government should should exercise discretion so that they have given to taxi and public bus drivers. So for those who could prove their eligibility as the self-employed, they will get a monthly subsidy of $6,000 for 6 months.
「好，現在開始表決。
Voting begins. Voting is closed. The results are displayed 23 for, 33 against, 0 abstention. I declare that the committee has decided against the motion. Next, Ms. Tanya Chan.
政府宣布推出第三
The government announced the third round of the AF, and yet the scale way diminished the previous 2 rounds. Hard to salvage the hot better catering industry. So the request the third round AFs to expand it to food factory licensees and restricted food seller licensee. And yes, the operator may not necessarily be a licensee. Hope that you can directly assist the food operators so that the licensee will not usurping the government subsidy.
「現在開
Voting begins. Voting has selfly showed the results. 23 for, 34 against, no abstentions. The committee will not deal with this motion. Next, Dr. Kiki Kwok, 1 minute bell, please. In accordance to FCR 37A, I move to this committee at the AF item to set up the allowance on unemployment and also underemployment. And for the former, if the Hong Kong permanent resident can prove that if they have been terminated after 23rd of January 2020, they can receive a payment of $15,000 maximum per month, or not higher than the original income for a maximum 6 months. Or for the later, if the Hong Kong permanent resident employee can prove that they have their pay deducted by half or more after 23rd of January 2020, or request to take 2 weeks or more of no pay leave, they can apply for a maximum of $8,000 a month, or not higher than half of their original income for the unemployment assistance for the maximum of 6 months.
現在開始表決。
Voting begins. Voting has stopped. Please show the results. 23 for, 35 against, no abstentions. The committee would not deal with this 37A motion. Next, Jeremy Tam. In accordance with FCR 37A, I move the following. That due to the inadequate control of the pandemic, and more than 6 months, all the trade profession affected, the committee urged the government to directly assist the public to hand out $20,000 of cash payment to all adult permanent residents of Hong Kong for economic relief.
現在開
Voting begins. Voting has stopped. Please show the results. 23 for, 35 against, no abstention. The committee will not deal with this motion. Next, Dr. Fernando Chang. You have to hurry up. 1 minute bell, please. The past three rounds of the Anti-Epidemic Fund involved over $300 billion, of which the Employment Support Scheme adamantly refused to assist the low-income earners directly affected by the epidemic. Instead, they were funneling billions of public money to consortium like supermarkets, property management, and healthcare groups that are not directly affected. And the pandemic have cost over 100 lives. 30% of those are elderly home residents, and most of which are the elderly. However, out of the $300 billion, only 0.1% is spent on the elderly homes. And for other disadvantaged groups, for example, the digital gap due to poor youth are learning online, and also the termination of treatment and training of those with special education needs, and also the overflowing of domestic shelter due to the flux of domestic violence victims, and the lack of support for mental health patients and the chronically ill, and also the overflowing invisibility of wind pressure, and urge the government to set up an employment assistance and to distribute equitable assistance to disadvantaged groups. Voting has stopped. Please show the results. 23 for, 34 against, 1 abstention. The committee will not deal with this motion. Last 37 motion, Mr. Ray Chan. Well, this is the last motion, 37A motion. I shall move as a term illegible in accordance with FCR 37A. I move that this committee urge the request administration to order COVID-19 vaccine for no fewer than 2 countries to bolster the public confidence on the government-ordered COVID-19 vaccine. The government have mandated they should order from no less than 2 drug makers and 2 different vaccine technology platforms. I see that ordering the no less than 2 countries, including this condition, will be more advantageous and achieve better result, and please support them. Voting begins. Voting has stopped. Please show the results. 23 for, 36 against, no abstention. The committee will not deal with this motion. If there are no further questions, we now put FCR 2020-2171 document to vote. And please ring the bell for 1 minute. We now are voting on approving the funding for the 3rd round of the Anti-epidemic Fund. Voting begins. Voting has stopped. Please show the results. 37 for, 23 against, no abstentions. I declare that the proposal is carried. Thank you all.